नमस्कार. उपस्थित सर्व मान्यवरांना नमस्कार. खरं म्हणजे आता तसं फडणीसजींनी सांगितलंच आहे, पण तरी मी थोडंसं आणखीन त्याच्यामध्ये सांगते की 2010 साली अमेरिका स्थित मंदार जोगळेकर यांनी बुकगंगाची स्थापना केली, बरं का. आतापर्यंत बुकगंगाने जवळपास 60 देशातील 10 लाखपेक्षा जास्त ग्राहकांपर्यंत 5,000 प्रकाशकांची, 40,000 लेखकांची, 3 लाख प्रिंट पुस्तके, 20,000 ई-बुक्स आणि 200 ऑडिओ बुक्स पोहोचवली आहेत. ओके. अर्थात हे एवढे मोठं कार्य टीमवर्कशिवाय कठीणच आहे. त्या कार्यासाठी जवळजवळ 60 जणांची टीम पुणे, साखरपा, रत्नागिरी आणि अमेरिका इथून कार्यरत आहे. बुकगंगा प्रकाशनाने जवळजवळ 250 पुस्तके प्रकाशित केले आहे. मुख्य सांगायचं म्हणजे डेक्कन येथील 1931 सालीपासून सुरू असलेले इंटरनॅशनल बुक सर्व्हिस या दुकानाची धुरा काही वर्षापूर्वी घेतली. काम जोमाने सुरू आहे. विशेष म्हणजे या उद्घाटनाला श्री सदानंद मोरेजी पण उपस्थित होते आणि आज पण ते उपस्थित आहे. हा एक सुंदर योगायोगच आहे. मराठी साहित्य जगभर वाचकांना उपलब्ध करून देण्याचा ध्येय आणि ध्यासातून बुकगंगाचे काम जोमाने सुरू आहे आणि ते सुरूच राहील. कारण मराठीचं मराठीपण टिकावं आणि आपले संत सगळ्यांना कळावे याच्याकरता हा सगळा प्रयत्न अर्थात बुकगंगा घेतेच आहे. विविध विषयावरील पुस्तके प्रकाशित करण्याचे काम बुकगंगा पण करते आहे. संत श्रेष्ठ जगद्गुरू श्री तुकाराम महाराज यांच्या अभंग गाथेचे इंग्रजीत भाषांतर जगभरातील वाचकांना उपलब्ध करून देण्याची संधी श्री दीपक फडणीस यांनी आम्हाला दिली, त्याबद्दल त्यांचे मनापासून आभार. आणि खरं सांगू का, मी माझ्या नातवंडांना म्हणते की अरे तुम्ही हे वाचा ते वाचा, तर ते म्हणतात आजी जसं तुला मराठी वाचायला आवडतं ना तसं आम्हाला इंग्रजी आवडतं. आणि आज त्यांनी हे इंग्रजी देऊन माझ्या नातवंडाकरता तर एक चांगलं बक्षीसच त्यांना मिळालेलं आहे. आज महाराजांच्या वंशातील सर्व सत्पुरुष या समारंभाला आवर्जून उपस्थित आहेत, त्याबद्दल त्यांचे मनपूर्वक आभार. आणि हो, आपण वाचक रसिक ही शब्दांची रत्ने वेचण्यासाठी खास आवर्जून उपस्थित आहात, त्यासाठी आपले पण मनपूर्वक धन्यवाद. बरं, हे पुस्तक bookganga.com, ॲमेझॉन आणि सर्व प्रमुख विक्रेत्यांकडे उपलब्ध आहे. जरूर आपण सगळ्यांनी विकत घ्यावे अशी माझी नम्र विनंती आहे. अभंग गाथेचे उर्वरित भाग लवकरच श्री फडणीस यांच्याकडून भाषांतरित होण्याची प्रार्थना करते आणि ते सर्व खंड जगभरातील वाचकांना लवकर उपलब्ध करून देण्यास बुकगंगा उत्सुक आहे. आपण सर्व मान्यवर वक्त्यांची भाषणे ऐकण्यासाठी उत्सुक आहात, त्यामुळे मी माझ्या मनोगताला इथेच मी विराम देते. धन्यवाद.
बुकगंगाचं मनोगत आत्ताच आपण ऐकलं प्रकाशकातर्फे. यानंतर आपण सगळे उत्सुक आहोत ते 2 वक्त्यांची भाषणं ऐकायला. त्यातलं पहिलं अभय महाराज टिळक यांना मी विनंती करेल की आपण बोलावं. त्यांच्याबद्दल आपण आज म्हणजे बऱ्याच जणांना माहितीच आहे, पण तरी एक सांगू इच्छिते की ते संत साहित्याचे अभ्यासक पण आहेत आणि तसंच अर्थतज्ज्ञसुद्धा आहेत. मला खरं तर ह्या 2 गोष्टी एकत्र असणारी व्यक्ती फार कुतूहल आहे की हे सगळं कसं काय एकत्र जुळून आलं आहे सरांच्या बाबतीत. त्यांनी अर्थबोध पत्रिकेचं संपादन पण केलं आहे. त्यांचा बराच अभ्यास आहे, ते यावर बोलतात. मला वाटतं सगळे उत्सुक आहेत, आपण त्यांना बोलूयात. सर.
नमस्कार. रामकृष्ण हरी. My senior friend and well-wisher, Deepak ji, I don't know, for some queer reason he has asked me to speak to you in English. I don't know why. Perhaps the reason being that this is a great moment when we are now able to transcend the boundaries of or limitations of language and literally spread the message of Bhagavad Dharma and Tukoba, who is definitely and without any doubt, unhesitatingly, we say, and it has been established, that is the pinnacle of this great tradition of Varkaris. And that is why I think it is perhaps the reason why Deepak has asked me to share whatever I have got to share, to express my gratitude, my happiness with you in a foreign language. Now, I must make one submission here, that before I go into it, I am reminded of one instance. It's about more than 20 years ago. One of my very good friends, Mr. Sri Prakash Menon, he is in Mumbai. He embarked on a project for creating a documentary about Tukoba Rai. He interviewed Dr. More as well, Dr. Sadananda More. He wanted to have a detailed interaction with Mr. Dilip Purushottam Chitri, the renowned poet and the person who translated a huge part of Abhanga's Says Tuka. It's a very famous publication by Penguins. So he wanted to have his bite or his small interview to be a part of the documentary. And in those days he used to stay somewhere near Hadapsar. So Sri Prakash requested me that to accompany him, to escort, because he was from Mumbai, he know the exact location of where Mr. Chitri lived. So I went there, and the sentence that I'm now going to utter is what Chitri said at that moment. See, we were ushered in, we settled down, all the cameras were set, and Sri Prakash said that, Professor Chitri, now you begin describing your relationship with Tukoba Rai. At that time, Deepak ji, what Dilip Purushottam Chitri said is etched in my mind, even today. He said, look, Sri Prakash, in the first place, it is very difficult to speak about Tukoba, because it's such a profound personality, that a very gross medium like words is too inadequate to grasp and then share essence of Tukoba. So it is in the first place, it is extremely difficult to speak about Tukoba. And next, if one begins talking about Tukoba, it then becomes almost impossible to stop talking about Tukoba. So in the first place, difficult to talk, and then having started, difficult to stop. Now here, my difficulty is compounded. That as the very, very senior poet, literary figure of global recognition, as Mr. Dilip Purushottam Chitri said, that it is difficult to talk about Tukoba in the first place. And two, that to speak about him in English is a double challenge, is a profound challenge for me, because to be very frank with you, I have been born and brought up in Pune. My proficiency with any language other than Marathi is limited. So please bear with me. Now you see, I was literally startled when I came to know about this is a Herculean task to translate entire composition, set of compositions of Tukoba into English. Because as he said that humble attempts have been made earlier. But those are all selected poems or selected compositions. Now see, although selection is a welcome feature or is a welcome enterprise, one cannot deny the fact that that particular selection in a way reflects. Please don't understand or don't use a negative meaning attached to the word that I am now going to utter. There is some kind of a bias. If not bias, it is the liking, which part of the whole creation, literary creation of Tukaram or Tukoba I select, definitely reflects my likes and dislikes. So there is a limitation. But now, this great labor of love that Deepak ji has undertaken to translate entire Gatha is a humongous task. It is very, very difficult for two reasons. And there lies the beauty and strength of this enterprise. See, again, I am here reminded of one more incident. In Marathi, there's a beautiful book which has come, I think, about more than 40 years ago. That book is, in fact, a transliteration of interviews with three great literary figures in area of Marathi literature. One of them was a very, very senior critic and professor of Marathi of yesteryears, Mr. Vala Kulkarni. The second was a very, very renowned authority in Marathi poetry, who later on was awarded with Jnanapith, Mr. Vinda Karandikar. And the third was, again, a queer combination of a story writer or the first generation of the whole, I think that era dates back to 1960s, when this genre of small, short tales, Lagu Katha, when it emerged on the horizon of Marathi literature, one of the forefront, one of the persons who was a forerunner into that, Mr. Gangadhar Gadgil. He was, by profession, he was an economist. He was an economic advisor to, if I'm not wrong, he was advisor to Birla's, if my memory serves me correct. So it was the book which was brought out by, I think, Mouse Prakashan, a very, again, renowned publishing agency. It was a transliteration of interviews with three literary luminaries, and the interviewer was again one of the renowned critics and professors in Marathi, Mrs. Vijaya Rajadhyaksha. Now, why I am reminded of that book here has something to do with the nature of the book, the nature of the efforts and the exercise that Deepak has undertaken. See, while answering to one of the questions, Vinda Karandikar has made a profound observation in that book. What he says is, he says that, see, the moment you begin interacting with any literary form, whether it is novel, story, short story, poem, anything, or even drama for that matter, he says that it is actually a process. If you look at it in a nuanced manner, what you are doing is, you are not only reading the words in front of you. It is a process through which you establish a contact with the mind of the creator of that literary form. So, when I begin, or when I open Gatha, I feel that although I am vastly inadequate even to claim that at an emotional level I can establish any kind of a meaningful contact with Tukoba, because I know my limitations. Tukoba is boundless. I am a very, very insignificant creature as compared to him. But still, that thought lingers in my mind that while I am reading Abhanga, while I am reading a composition, I am trying to establish a dialogue with a very, very enlightened mind named Tukoba. What Deepak ji has done is, he has now opened a door for non-Marathi devotees, admirers of Tukoba, to peep into his mind. And this is a great work that he has done. Otherwise, till today, the dialogue that could be established with Tukoba there was a barrier of language. Now, by undertaking this enterprise of converting or translating entire composition of Tukoba, it's a great opportunity for non-Marathi audience to at least understand what Tukoba stands for. Now, you see, I'm literally amused and literally startled that he has undertaken this exercise, because you see, it's very, very difficult to understand Tukoba. Language, in that sense, is a barrier, no doubt about it, but to my mind, it is a secondary barrier. The primary barrier is the personality called Tukoba itself. See, it's as I said that when we begin reading Abhangas, when we begin reading poems or compositions of Tukoba, as Vinda Karandikar has said, we try to establish some kind of a dialogue, contact with a mind called Tukaram or Tukaram Boloba Ambile, as his original name was. Now, it is extremely difficult and challenging to even grasp distant glimpses of that mind. That mind is enlightened. That mind is hugely dynamic. See, the moment you begin, and Deepak has earnestly pleaded with all of us, I would plead with all non-Marathi audience that they should look at this exercise as a very, very basic medium to have even a distant glimpse of a person or a huge entity, existence called Tukoba. The amount of dynamism, which is I would say that if I had to describe Tukoba in 3 words, I would say it is first, huge, deep introspection. Every composition of Tukoba, you will see that there are various types of Abhangas in Gatha. Every Abhanga has its own ethos, own background. But if you ask me, about 90% of his Abhangas, his poems, his compositions, reflect deep introspection. See, Tukoba is a highly introspective entity, an individual, trying to understand depths of inner world, grasp inadequacies in your own existence, try to overcome them and strive for a better level of existence, better level of awareness. So deep introspection, learning at every moment. See, we also become introspective occasionally, but not necessarily that we learn from our mistakes that we realize or the inadequacies or lacunae that exist in our personality. We do realize them, but the penchant to overcome them is unparalleled. Tukoba stands for that. So first, deep introspection, and I would say ruthless introspection. See, when we try to read our mind, we are also safeguarded. We somehow shun the negative dimensions of our personality. We try to overlook at them, or we try to overlook them. Not Tukoba. It's a ruthless inner journey to find out who I am and what I stand for. Then, having learned the inadequacies, the next battle to overcome them. Third, keep on moving to higher and higher levels of awareness. So, the amount of dynamism, which is the essence of this person called Tukoba, is very difficult to catch and convey in words. It's extremely difficult. Even I would say that even no Marathi person can make a claim that by reading Gatha he has understood Tukoba. See, I'm not being, I don't take it as a negative comment. This is a reality. The beauty of this book or this entire activity or enterprise undertaken by Deepak is, see, he mentioned that while translating the broad meaning of every composition of Abhanga, he has referred to 3 earlier versions of Gatha which have been expounded in Marathi. He mentioned about 3 personalities. One, Mr. Vishnu Zog, who was basically a great devotee of Jnandev and a very towering personality of Varkari Sampradaya, contemporary of Lokmanya Tilak. Dr. More, in his treatise Tukaram Darshan, has written extensively about Zog Maharaj, his contribution to Varkari sect, his association with Tilak, the entire movement of the freedom movement and so on. The second he mentioned is another personality, a towering personality in Varkya Sampradaya, Mr. Shankar Maharaj Khandarkar. And the third text that he has referred to is by P.N. Joshi, Prahlad Narahar Joshi. Now I am extremely happy and I literally feel delighted that by referring to these three commentaries, see, the non-Marathi reader of this translation are going to be the beneficiaries of three different approaches to Tukaram, because these three personalities represent three different waves, three different approaches, three different understandings, three different perceptions of Tukoba and his poetry. See, Vishnu Vazog essentially was a devout Varkari. I will not go into much detail because Dr. Saran More has to, that we are all, even I am equally eager to listen to him. But you see, he was the person who understood the essence in terms of morality or moral values that Tukoba stood for. See, he was the person who established a Varkari training institution at Alandi in the year 1917. So it is exactly 108 years ago. Now, what was the motive? The motive is very important. See, being a contemporary of Tilak, he was aware about the three bhasha, the Chatussutri, Swabhasha, Swadesh and Swarajya. Now, he realized that through the efforts of the British, although the education has now started spreading because schools got established, colleges were there, universities were set up, he realized that now there is a need, an urgent need, an ardent need to support formal education which is imparted through the school department or through the education department of the British. There is now a need to supplement the formal training through value training. So he established that Varkari school, it's even functioning today at Alandi. So his approach towards Gatha, he was the first person, to the best of my knowledge, who made a commentary or tried to explain the meaning of compositions of Tukoba ABHANG into Marathi. So his approach is typical that of a very, very devout Varkari. The person who follows, who has affinity, commitment, connect with the tradition. Now Shankar Maharaj Khandarkar is a different texture. His whole understanding, approach towards Gatha is broadly from the school of Vedanta. So a large part of his explanation of Tukoba ABHANG or Tukoba's poems, as he has depicted in his version, he tries to interpret what Tukoba wants to say or Tukoba intends to say through his compositions in the framework of Vedanta. So that's a completely different approach. And the third is Mr. P.N. Joshi, Prahlad Narahar Joshi. See, his father was again a Kirtankar, so he had that tradition in his family, but he was basically a teacher, a professor and a critic. So, by referring to these three trends or three waves or three ways of grasping to understand the essence of Tukoba Rai, one from typical Varkari background, tradition, the other from Vedanti school of thought, and the third purely from literary point of view. I think what Deepak has attempted here, therefore, is a beautiful confluence of these three broad approaches, and therefore I am in a way jealous, I would say, of the non-Marathi reader of these books, that they will get to know or they will have some kind of a fine balance of three broad approaches to look at Tukoba. Lastly, what I would say is, I won't take much time. No, I'll take last observation that I need to make here. See, as I rightly said, that it's a huge enterprise. It's a humongous task. It's a Herculean task that Deepak has undertaken. But I would request everybody, including myself, whether you understand Marathi or you don't understand Marathi, we must try to first understand that Tukoba represents a whole tradition of Varkaris. He is at the zenith of the tradition. And therefore, in his personality, we find a complete gist, essence of teaching of Varkaris Bhagavad Dharma, which is essentially learning to strike a fine balance in life. So entire struggle, battle Tukoba had to undertake throughout his journey of 42 years was essentially a drive towards that life, that state of existence, where there's a very balance of what we call as pravrutti and nivrutti, strive and renunciation. See, these are two essential attributes that each of us need to live a fruitful, truthful, rewarding life. So basically, to understanding Tukoba implies that we try to understand his worldview, his approach towards human life, and lead a life which is guided by adherence to moral values, humanity, and essentially a fine balance between the physical world and the metaphysical world. And through the efforts of Deepak ji, this entire sea of thoughts is now being made open to non-Marathi readers, and I am extremely thankful to him, and I wish him all the best in his future endeavor. Thank you very much, Ram Krishna Hari. Sorry.
सरांचं असता असं झालं मला वाटतं सर म्हणाले तसंच की डिफिकल्ट टू टॉक इन इंग्लिश पण डिफिकल्ट टू स्टॉप असंही झालं. खरंच छान बोलत होते आणि त्यांना थांबावं असं वाटत नव्हतं. सर सगळ्याच प्रोसेसमध्ये पुस्तकाच्या त्यांच्याबरोबर होते, लेखकांबरोबर, त्यामुळे त्यांची चर्चा आणि त्याच्यातून त्यांनी वेगवेगळे दृष्टिकोन जे मांडले ते महत्त्वाचे वाटले. धन्यवाद सर. यानंतर आपण आता अध्यक्षीय भाषणाकडे वळूयात. तुकाराम गाथेचं ज्यांनी संपादन केलं आहे, तुका म्हणे सदर ज्यांनी लिहिलं आहे, निवडक सकल संत गाथेचे जे लेखक आहेत, तुलनात्मक संशोधनपर पुस्तकं ज्यांनी लिहिली आहेत, असे तुकारामाचे वंशज डॉक्टर सदानंद मोरे यांना मी विनंती करते की त्यांनी आपलं अध्यक्षीय भाषण करावं.